The 2023 elections were a milestone in our electoral history, bringing it to a centennial, to a full round by September. We often wonder what thoughts may have pranked the minds of the first Nigerians who voted in the elections of September 20th, 1923. But people like Herbert Macaulay were resolute in their desire to birth for Nigeria the right of franchise, which legal fabrics the Clifford Constitutions of 1922 provided. Thus, the nationalist race began coursing through a labyrinth of political development leading up to independence in 1960, reaching full franchise in 1979. The first electoral deposit of our post-colonial history was reportedly marred by widespread violence and manipulations of results. A military takeover following the failed coup of 15 January 1966 would lay the bricks for a 29-year military rule spanning 5 coup d'etats. Yes, we are all well acquainted with the horror of those years and how much of our economic might perished in the flames of corruption and mismanagement. With the return to civil rule in 1999, 6 years after the annulment of what is adjourned as the most free and fair election in our political history, came a new glow of hope, illuminating the hearts and minds of Nigerians to pursue their dreams of justice, equity, and fairness. Political participation marked a new high. Nigerians felt their country return to their hands to mold it according to the specification of our founding fathers. However, the results have walked in the opposite direction with the expectations of ordinary Nigerians 24 years into the Fourth Republic, with Nigerians topping the list of embarrassing statistics at global, regional, and sub-regional levels. The political class, peopled by new and old politicians and political houses, spread a culture of incompetence and ineptitude, colored by nepotism, tribalism, and the regular manipulations of religious sentiments, returning every election cycle to sow seeds of discord among ordinary Nigerians, leaving a scattered and scared population bare of democratic dividends behind. Apathy grew and flawed. Rigging became a popular vocabulary in our electoral lexicon. In most states and at the center, the worst of us led the best of us to doom. We can never account for the human cost of this dark period of our democracy and how terrible our institutions were traumatized. But the weaker they become, the more power the political class amassed, giving rise to what can best be described as the golden years of impunity. Thus was Nigeria stolen from the true owners. The people, and balkanized by politicians, our institutions began to bleed. Professionals reaching an all-time high in the last decade. We became a country of refugees as the harsh economic realities activated criminals' tendencies and elements, outstretching the limits of our law enforcement. In 2020, the EndSARS protest provided an outlet for young Nigerians to vent their displeasure with the system. It became exposed to the extent of desperation by Nigerians and how much awoke Nigerians had become. Construct a devilish plot to silence their voices. The cowardly shooting of young Nigerian protesters, despite holding the flag and singing the national anthem, was how low they crept into their plot. We can never fully comprehend how much trauma that unfortunate episode cost the nation and whether the victims will ever recover. But hope returned in the months leading up to the 2023 general election, with more Nigerians armed with clarity of what truly matters in their engagement with the system. Over 10 million new names entered the voter register. Most of them were young people, some of whom were first-time voters. So when the day came for them to cast their vote on the 25th of February 2023, it was not a repetition of the quarterly rituals, but a service to the nation, knowing that by participating in the process that recruits leaders, they hold the right to demand for accountability. But more so, because the chairman of Independent National Electoral Commission, Inec, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, had promised Nigerians to the commitment of the commission to conduct a free, a fair, and all-inclusive poll, he made submissions locally on various international platforms, assuring Nigerians and the world that the outcome will be transparent and such that it will reflect the will of the Nigerian people. This is beside the confidence that President Muhammadu Buhari, signing the Electoral Act of 2022 as amended, gave the willingness of Nigerians to participate in the polls. Unfortunately, Professor Mahmood Yakubu chose to desecrate the altar of truth and trust by collating results and declaring a winner in flagrant disregard of the INEC guidelines and the Electoral Act of 2022 as amended. We have heard calls to look to the bright side of the election vis-a-vis the positive changes that it has contributed to our electoral behavior and history. While we acknowledge that there were improvements in voter participation, and particularly we cannot help but ask, on what foundation will these changes build their roots? A decision based on falsehood and fraud will always birth the same. The reason our country remained political moribund for years was due to our indifference to suppression, oppression, and injustice. This is why we have been marching for 10 days and now to call and awake our national consciousness to the barrage of illegalities committed during the Presidential, National Assembly, gubernatorial, and state assembly elections. We hope that the courts will have concluded hearing and pronouncement by May 29 to allow for the swearing in of a new president. However, in the event that the courts are unable to clear litigation before it lies within the legal right to direct President Muhammadu Buhari to hand over to the Senate President, who will preside over state affairs until June 3rd, when he will hand over to the Chief Justice of the Federation to preside as interim president pending the resolution of cases and substantive precedent sworn in. All of this is within the bandwidth of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. This is the path to ensure that President Muhammadu Buhari remains within the limits of his lawful tenure, which elapses on 29th May 2023. Owing to the 60 days left of his tenure, cannot suffice to call for a new presidential poll. Should the courts heed the call of the vast majority of ordinary Nigerians and order for a new presidential election? Those claiming that our submission at the Ministry of Defense was to woo the military over a possible takeover are mischievous and desperate spine doctors whose only interest is to midwife instability in our polity.
Yes.
Their plans will not succeed.
Yes.
Our country cannot afford to return to the dark years of military dictatorship, given the contributions of Nigerians to political disputes in Mali and Gambia. That is not an option or even an opinion. On the said day, we had rounded up visits to the U.S. Embassy and the High Commission of Britain and Canada. When we made a brief stop at the Ministry of Defense to read our press statement, calling on the military to stay within the law in their conduct, we call on all the spin doctors who desist to desist from any further lies over our intention.
Yes.
We cannot be part of any political plot to destabilize Nigeria any more than it currently is by the illegality of Professor Mahmoud Yakubu. For those insisting on the unconstitutionality of the call, we'd like to remind you that Professor Yakubu's actions are also unconstitutional and that the public deceit is a crime. The fact that he still has a job in the commission is proof of how much we have fallen into the pit of illegality. No progress happens in any lawless society. As of today, Nigeria is within the full field of lawlessness because of the conspiracy or collusion to permit. Given the background of our explanation, within the time limit of President Muhammadu Buhari: 1. Sack, arrest, detain Professor Mahmoud Yakubu.
Yes.
Cancellation of the presidential election of 25th February 2023.
Yes.
Declaration of an interim government.
Yes.
Compensation of all the victims of electoral violence and voter suppression.
Yes.
We have also called for the establishment of a Truth and Reconciliation Commission in Lagos and other flashpoints during the federal and state polls for the purpose of national healing. It deserves mentioning that our group and motivation are apolitical. We are not serving the interests of any presidential election or politician, not any candidate for that matter. We are only challenging the illegality of the process that declared a winner in the presidential election that met every condition for failure. We are asking for the people to be held accountable for once in our country. We will continue to march for Nigeria and will never stop until our demands are met.
Yes.
Thank you.
Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. We shall always fight for our rights. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever. We shall always fight for our rights.
Thank you, distinguished ladies and gentlemen.